Hey you guys, it's Britt. Today I wanted to jump on and talk to you for a few minutes about what happens to a child that has been emotionally manipulated when they grow up. What does their adulthood look like and what do their adolescent and teenage years look like? I actually have a lot of direct experience with this and I felt like it was a good time to share a little bit with you guys. So if you're interested, please keep watching. All right, you guys, so my last video, I did say that that was my final kind of rant about the Jordan Cheyenne situation, but I want to talk about the bigger issue at hand here. And I don't know a whole lot in life. I'm not, super skilled in every single thing that I do. But there are some things that I have direct experience with, and some of those things are very personal, and sometimes sharing stuff on the internet can be very scary. So, I've done my best to share things as I feel comfortable sharing them, but I do feel like sharing my direct experience with this situation now might be the time. And it's not because I'm being forced or anything like that. I just feel like this subject is being discussed a lot because of what we saw with Jordan Cheyenne in that deleted vlog where she was emotionally manipulating her child into taking the thumbnail to look sad, act like you're crying. Even though he was crying, he was visibly upset, thinking about the fact that his new puppy was sick. It's a lot. And if you guys are clicking on this, you've probably seen those videos. And if you haven't seen mine, then I'm sure you've seen other creators talk about this, because it has definitely blown up into something way bigger than I ever thought that it would be. But I think that's for good reason. I think that this should be picked up by bigger channels, and I love to see it. But today I did want to share a little bit about this because for the veil to be lifted on kind of what goes into getting a kid to look a certain way for a thumbnail, it's not only happening with her, and that was not a one-time thing. I've said this before. I believe that, this was a one-time thing as far as it being accidentally uploaded and her having to backpedal and backtrack, and now she's trying to save her ass. But I know for a fact this happens with other kids. And let's not only talk about thumbnails, let's talk about kids in YouTube videos or kids in Instagram pictures. There are a lot of kids that are only on Instagram. Their parents have pages for their kids. Some of the kids are very, very young. Even infants I've seen have their own Instagram pages. But when we think about what's the perfect Instagram picture for a toddler to take or for a young kid to take, if the kid is not doing what the parent wants, then there is a possibility that that child is being emotionally manipulated right before or right after that picture is taken, depending on the result of the photo. Do the parents like the picture? Is it going to go viral? Is the video going to go viral? Or are they in between takes manipulating that child? This is absolutely a form of abuse. And I realize, Jordan Cheyenne, Jordan did want everyone to know, according to her interview, how there are way worse things happening to kids online. And she wanted to pat herself on the back by saying that her child is fed and she doesn't physically abuse him. Take that and throw it in the trash, because being emotionally manipulated and emotionally abused still matters. It's still detrimental to a child's upbringing. And that's where I want to kind of give you guys a little bit of my experience. And I'm going to tell you guys what happened as I grew up being emotionally manipulated by a parent. What happened as I grew into my teenage years, and what happened, how, those things still plague my life as an adult. Before I give you guys those examples, I do want to read, I always like to just read the basic definition of what emotional manipulation is. and then let's go into kind of what I saw as a child and how it affected me as an adult. So it says, emotional manipulation occurs when a manipulative person seeks power over someone else and employs dishonest or exploitive strategies to gain it. Unlike people in healthy relationships which demonstrate reciprocity and cooperation, an emotional manipulator looks to use, control, or even victimize someone. Almost everyone can be a little bit manipulative from time to time. Sometimes a person is having a bad day. Sometimes they've fallen into bad habits and poor communication. In these cases, calling someone out on their bad behavior may be enough to put a stop to it. However, some people are habitually or pathologically manipulative and must be handled with care. Now, it does go into all the examples of what emotional manipulation looks like, but I really want to tie this back to what happens when a child experiences it, because that's what I have direct experience with. So in my video today, I gave you guys an example of how when I was a young kid, my parents got divorced when I was an infant. So I have no memory of them living in the same home. I always had 2 bedrooms. I always had 2 Christmases, 2 birthdays, the whole 9 yards. So that was something that I was very used to. However, they did share custody. So my dad had me during the week and my mom would have me on the weekends. I can't remember if it was every weekend or if it was every other weekend. I don't remember, and it doesn't really matter. But what would happen is, in order for her to make my dad feel bad, when we would be in the car driving back to his house for her to drop me off, she would make sure to tell me to cry when I, get to the front door. Make sure that you look like you've been crying, and cry when you get inside, so that he knows that you love being at my house. And that was her way of, using me as a pawn in her game. And it's so gross, and it is so wrong to do that to a child. The problem with that is, when you're a young child, you don't have the courage to tell whichever parent is instructing you to do this and manipulating the situation. You don't have the courage to tell them, no, I'm not doing this, it's wrong, and I don't want to upset my dad, or I don't want to upset my mom. Or even if it's a grandparent or a friend or whoever it is, the person providing those instructions, you don't feel comfortable enough as a kid to say no. And as a child, most kids want to make both of their parents happy. They want both of their parents to admire them and share affection and, be pleased with them. And the child thinks that by following these orders, because they don't know how to say no, it's going to appease the parent or the person providing the instructions. When I saw this with Jordan Cheyenne and her son, I immediately went back to being that young kid who just wanted to, I put myself in his shoes, and I understand what it's like to hear instructions from a parent and you're confused as to why they're telling you to do something that involves emotion, and a lot of times it's emotion that you're already presenting, and you just want them to be happy, so you do whatever it is that they're telling you to do. So in order to sit there and manipulate a young child, whether it's 5 times in their young years, if it's 5 times a week, if it's 20 times a month, obviously doing it more often is going to damage them more, but also everyone is so different. It could take 1 or 2 of those instances, and those will be memories that they remember forever, depending on the age of the child. So what happened with me specifically is those types of situations continued through my childhood. And, basically, long story short, my parents did go through a long, drawn-out custody battle in court. And my dad did have full custody of me because I told my guardian ad litem that I wanted to live with my dad full time. However, instead of keeping me 100% of the time, my dad was also a very understanding person, and he realized that I needed to see my mom. And so I would still see her kind of on that every other weekend. Sometimes it was every weekend, and holidays they would sort out. I did end up still having time around her, and unfortunately, even once the custody situation was settled, she still utilized emotional manipulation, almost as if it was to drive the point home for when I would go back to my dad to see me visibly upset. And she would say, you know, tell him that you want to live with me, and tell him that you don't like his house. And, you know, it was a lot of the, you know, as I got a little bit older, it was constantly making sure she was buying me toys, and she was the fun parent. And, you know, as the years went on, I got into high school, and she was really putting on that fun parent hat for me, because she thought that that's what would make me want to go and live with her. And unfortunately, because of all of the manipulation that I experienced as a young child, all that it did was fracture our relationship in a very, very bad way. And it really pisses me off, because a lot of times I see parents trying to discount the memory of their child, or the capacity of their child's memory, saying, oh, they won't remember this. I'm telling you right now, I remember things like they happened yesterday. And I have a very vivid memory from a very, very young age at some of the things that I saw and heard at the hands of my parents, specifically my mother. So when you start manipulating a child at a young age, not only is it going to stay with them, it's going to fracture your relationship as they get older. It doesn't matter what you buy them, or if you're the cool parent, or you're the fun parent, or you're the parent that has no rules, or you're the parent that buys them a BMW, or you're the parent that takes them on shopping sprees and makes sure that they have a iPad and the iPhone and all the cool clothes, and they can have friends over, and friends can come and swim in the pool, and there's no rules here. None of that matters. It might act as a band-aid for a short time, but as far as having a real, genuine, strong relationship with your children, all of that bullshit and manipulation that they experienced as a kid, I am telling you, is not going to do shit as they get older. And as they get older, and if you continue to try to poke and prod and keep using these tactics on your kid who's now in their teenage years, eventually they're going to get to the point where they're going to tell you to F off. And that's exactly what happened with me, because I got tired of it. I remembered all of those years when I was a child, and all of these tactics that were used in order to try to make sure that my mom was happy and make sure that I was appeasing her. So all of that manipulation that she presented to me over the years stuck with me. And once I got to the point where I was ready to put my foot down, our relationship was so fractured, it was almost impossible to regain control of. We've had a very scattered kind of off and on. I'm sure most of you guys have gathered that by now. You know, during my adult years and once I was out of high school and stuff, it was very checkered. On and off, on and off. But how odd is it that the parent that didn't emotionally manipulate me and force me into crying or say this and go tell this person that And the parent that actually had some ground rules for me and didn't try to manipulate me with toys and money and things like that, that's the parent that I grew very, very close with, because I have no memories of that parent ever using me as a pawn in their game. I am very, very close with my dad. And, you know, I thank him for making me the person that I am today. And I realize that, you know, some people they thank both of their parents. Some people don't thank either of their parents. They might have a godparent or an aunt or a grandparent. But I will say that if it wasn't for my dad and my grandmother, I would not be a fraction of the person that I am today, as far as having integrity, respect, and a decent character. So I thank them both for making me the person that I am. And I'm not perfect, and I mess up and I make mistakes and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm never gonna, you know, put out something that says I'm perfect and I'm flawless, because I do make mistakes, and I've made some of them right here on my channel. But as far as my core values, I know who I am, and you know, I just do my best. That's all that I can do. But I really wanted to talk about this because I kept thinking today, after I filmed that vlog, I was like, you know, this situation is really like hitting me in the core. And once I kind of realized that, you know, I've been Christian. I've been the kid who was trying to appease my mom. And sometimes, even though I was sad, I wasn't sad enough, or I wasn't shedding enough tears. And to be coaxed by a parent like that, and on top of it, to think that it's all for a fucking YouTube video. Wow. Not saying that, you know, doing it to piss off the other parent makes any sense, because it doesn't. But to think that your child was in distress and all that you thought of was what kind of thumbnail you were going to come up with. And I really do not like this narrative that emotional abuse is being put almost to the side, like it doesn't even matter. When in fact, emotional abuse stays with a kid just as long as mental and physical abuse does, or SA. You know, all of them matter, because they are all very prominent memories that kids will have for the rest of their life. And, you know, luckily I got to the point where I was able to recognize what was going on. And I'm thankful that I did kind of recognize what was going on. And that's the other thing, is with a scenario like that, once you're the kid that puts your foot down to a manipulative parent, that's a whole circus. That could be a whole nother video, because then you're the bad one. You're the outcast. You're the one that causes trouble. You're the one that, you know, is disappointing. But all those years of emotional manipulation are just ignored. So at the end of the day, all it does is fracture the relationship with the parent and the child, or whoever the adult is in that situation that's trying to use these tactics on the child. All it does is create a very, very deep fracture in that relationship. And many times it's something that cannot be rebuilt. So I not only think about this situation, but I also think about every other, you know, I knew in the back of my mind there had to be something going on behind the scenes to get these kids to look certain ways in thumbnails and take these pictures that are on Instagram and do the little TikToks and stuff that I see. I knew there was something going on, but to see it right in front of me with my own two eyes, is something that I'm still processing. But this isn't something that should be downplayed. It's not something that should be ignored. And it is not something that should be called just drama and tea on the internet. This is so much deeper than that. And I will almost guarantee you that this is a pattern. And I deeply worry about any child who has been a victim of being manipulated by their parents. And this is why I say so many times, years from now, we are going to see a huge fallout between these YouTube kids and their parents. It's going to be really bad. But either way, that's going to be it for today. I just wanted to share this with you guys because, you know, I feel like I have so many things going on in my mind about this. And anytime that I can, you know, kind of put myself in someone else's shoes directly like I could with this, I did want to share it with you guys. Again, I'm very careful about kind of what I share online, but there are certain things that I do want to share with you guys because I know that some of you have gone through it as well. And it speaks directly to what happens years down the road. Because now I am an adult and I can look back at all those past years and tie out certain things and start to reconcile kind of why I was feeling the way I was feeling. So for now, if you like the video, please leave a like and a comment. And if you'd like to see more from me in the future, please subscribe. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.